Hey everyone, it's Chris here, and tonight I am talking with Sav, my friend from Vancouver, who does some amazing photography work and now has started working with bands doing some tour documentation. And Sav, why don't you tell us kind of your full line of things that you do now?
Yeah. Well, thanks for saying I do good work. That's very kind. Um, so I guess when I'm on tour, I try to be a jack of all trades, but I'm predominantly hired to do media, which can be anything from show photos to videography to helping with marketing and running social media pages. In addition to that, I also try to be helpful with merchandising, so selling merch, setting
Mhm.
up the merch table, and tour managing if necessary. Try to be able to do a little bit of everything, but predominantly it's photo and video and helping bands just kind of boost their social media presence, kind of help them find their brand and navigate the type of content that's going to work best for them because they're busy focusing on the music.
Mhm.
My job is to document it and make sure that people can see it.
Yeah, and you do this for your company, Paradox Visuals, which the link will be
Yeah,
down below for anybody who wants to check that out.
thank you.
Um, but when you and I met, so we met at a show in Seattle years ago, Full of Hell show, which was insane.
Yeah, that show was crazy. That
And
that whole night was crazy.
yeah, and obviously there was a bit of an injury there from some very asshole stage diver, but yeah, we met there, and you were talking about wanting to do photography and everything, and I've been to a number of shows with you, up in Vancouver and stuff, and while clearly I think you're very good at it, I also think it's really cool. The last time I physically saw you, you were on tour with a band doing all those things you just listed. So how did that happen? Because it's one thing to say I'm going to shoot shows, but how do you start making this transition from your experience?
Yeah. It kind of goes back a ways. I've been working towards this point in my career for the better part of 10 years now.
Mhm.
And it started when I went to college. I went to an arts and tech institute for digital photography and
Okay.
business. It was just a diploma program 1 year. And I went in with the idea of I want to document bands. I want to be a documentarian. I want
Mm,
to not shoot shows, but I want to go on tour and I want to go behind the scenes because I was very inspired by tour documentaries I watched as a
mm.
kid with my dad, and then like the Black Dahlia murder tour doc and stuff like that.
Uh,
And I've always been a fan of the music, but I've also really been a fan of musicians, and I'm inspired by them. So when I got to my art school, I told them I was like, "This is what I'm here for," and they were like, "You're in the wrong place, sweetheart. You can't shoot shows unless you get on a publication, unless you're a journalist." So I didn't like that answer because I didn't like school very much. So I was like, I'm going to get there without having to go to journalism school. Although I did pursue journalism for a little bit. I did like a semester, but I ended up after I graduated college, I got a job with a local news outlet where I was living at the time.
Mhm.
And I was essentially a video journalist. I would go to their community events and I would focus on fluff pieces, arts and entertainment. And I did that for 5 years and I really loved it. But I kind of ended up hitting a ceiling because where I lived was pretty small. We had an
Mm.
incredible local scene. But like towards COVID, venues were dying. The scene was kind of getting lower. And I was like, okay, I need to find my next step.
Mm.
Um, Somehow used my journalism to get me into radio. So I started working for radio stations here in British Columbia doing their promotions and marketing. And that was a really good way to be more involved with music and learning a little bit more about the marketing side of things and what makes people successful. So from there, I found like if I just build myself up in this smaller town, I can take a stepping stone to Vancouver, which is where I live
Mm.
now. Much bigger city,
Mhm.
great for touring. It's like one of the A markets of Canada. A lot of the tours come here. And I was like, okay, I need to get a job here. I need to meet as many people as I can here. And I need to annoy the shit out of them. And I did. And I annoyed them. I annoyed every promoter I could, every local band that I could that I was friends with. And I was like, hey, just let me take pictures at your show. Let me do your promos. Let me take photos for your social media, Mr. Promoter. Hey, radio station I work for, we should cover the big concerts that are coming here. post it to social media, let people kind of see that side of us. And from there, I was just lucky enough to build enough connections and to befriend enough musicians who understood what it was like to struggle as an artist and to struggle in this specific industry and who were willing to take a chance. So it was kind of a long-winded answer, but it really is a long process to get here. It doesn't always have to be. I just found I was supporting myself. I was young. I started this when I was 18. I
Mm,
started my business. I had been taking photos since high school, but I had to keep a corporate job, so I was able to fund
mm.
my side hustle and to keep afloat because Vancouver is a very expensive city to live. So I was slow to get here, but since I've gotten here, it's been very fast progress, and it was all worth it.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. And, I like some of the core points you mentioned, right? Obviously, the work ethic that goes into it, the self-promotion, but also like the connection, like you said, with other artists. Um, hey, like we're both reaching for a goal here. Let's maybe help each other out. I can do this. And because what you're describing is a lot of free work from your end, right?
Yeah, a lot of free work.
Promotion, documentation, photography, travel, all that's all free at first, at least, right?
Yeah. And I was lucky to be able to offer that for free because I was able to maintain my corporate job. It was really hard. I was working there was one weekend I remember I was covering a music festival while still doing my journalism job. I worked 100 hours in a week. I don't even know how I did that. I had a mental breakdown afterwards, but
Oh,
because I was able to work hard and prove myself at my corporate jobs, they were able to be a little bit more lenient with me. I was able
mm,
to make okay enough money so that I could offer these services to bands and to musicians or other, venues and promoters to kind of help them also move forward until they were
mm.
able to get to the point where they were able to be paid what they deserved.
Yeah, and so because I think like we mentioned a little bit before we started the interview here, a lot of people may not be aware what exactly you can do, right? You'll see the big so at any given show there's like the photographers you expect to see, and then there's a few new ones. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's maybe they just want to shoot a few shows, but maybe they don't know like, hey, you can do all this stuff because you're talking everything from photography to merch setup to documentation to social media and
Yeah.
anything else, even maybe some tour managing. um but that isn't even the end of it. So how do you
No.
kind of gauge where you're going? Because again, I've seen you mostly shoot. That's what I've
Yeah.
known you mostly as until very recently, from our time together at that show. So what's kind of still out there for you?
Yeah, I think that luckily with having ADHD, and I hate to be like the typical millennial to talk about that, but I've been able to use that to my advantage to be able to adapt and pivot and fill gaps where I need because as we talked about before, musicians are also artists. They're struggling financially to make their dreams come true,
Mm-hmm.
and sometimes they can't afford crew. And if I want to be there to shoot and achieve my goal, I need to make myself useful. And yeah, photos are super useful. Social media is useful, but that's not everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to make it so I am worth their time and money to hire me. So that's why I'm like, okay, what else can I do? I'm a good driver. One of the bands I tour with, only of the three of them, only one of them drives. So
Oh.
I join them, I drive them, I sell their merch. They don't, customer service is not their thing. They're trades guys. So I'm like, okay, I'll stand at the merch table. I'll talk to people. And through like my corporate work, I've got strong at like communication skills and organization and fine details, which is also everything that goes into, being a tour manager, which I didn't even think was a job until I inadvertently was a tour manager
Wait.
on my first US tour with a Canadian band. I just kind of fell into that role. And they were like, you're great at this. You're helpful. You are making it easier on us. You're letting us focus on what we need to. And you're standing up for us. So that's another thing. You just kind of find the holes
Mm,
and see if your other abilities are able to fill them or if you can, find a way to just like cut and paste and tape everything together to make it work.
hmm Great.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
Yeah.
Right. And it sounds like, right, some of the musicians take note of what you're doing and say, "Oh, we'd like you to be kind of a part of this." Um,
Yeah, I'm very lucky. I've gained like really strong bonds with the bands that I work with, and that like it sounds cheesy, but they've referred to me as like another member of the band because of
great.
how integral I try to make myself to their team. And I think that's your job as not only a photographer, but as a member of like a touring community. You have to, you know, become a part of the machine and
Mm-hmm.
a part of the family because it's a very intimate
Mm-hmm.
opportunity to tour. It's a very intense environment, and yeah, you have to be close and you have to be willing to just fucking you know live in the worst conditions and be willing to just fucking work all the time.
Yeah, it sounds glorious.
I mean, yes, it is beautiful at times, but when you're on your way before you get to the glamorous RVs and
Mhm.
bandwagons, you're in vans, you're in cars, you're in trucks, you're fucking all sweaty and squished together. So yeah, but it's always
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, and I think just about any band who's ever hit the road has talked about that particular struggle. Um, I think concert photography is awesome. I think most people, at least kind of the older generations, right? Posters on the wall, right? My favorite band, I put the poster, and like that shot is everything. It's etched in my mind. But now people's first kind of foray into some of this visual is it's probably social media.
Yeah.
Oh, I saw a clip of my favorite band or this or maybe a shirt or something. So how do you in particular kind of balance like the classic art of photography with like this whole new buffet of visual onsite? Because there's so many people posting so much. How does like my photo pop in a way it needs to?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and it's something that I constantly struggle with a lot is, when you're in the midst of the social media machine and you're constantly trying to produce impactful moments and they're up there and they're only impactful for like a couple hours and then it's done and nobody cares and they're waiting for the next one. Um, I find that it's different for everybody in regards to like the old school vibe. I mean, I grew up idolizing photographers like Ross Halfin, and his work I always felt was so much more intimate and honest because he was on the road with these bands. And
Mm,
it wasn't early in my career where I realized I wanted to tour, but it it's when I realized I was shooting concerts at larger arenas and you only get 3 songs. How do you make an impact in 3 songs when you have 10 other photographers and you're shooting the same thing in the same light? How do you stand out? And I felt that it's when you build a connection.
mm,
It's when the people on stage and you have a bond and they know that you're there.
mm,
And it's awesome when you tour too. You get to shoot the same band every single night, the same set. So you get to know, the inner
mm,
workings and you can do more angles, but I still try to get that connection sooner and I try to make it different. It can You can know the little moments of like people's personalities and when those are going to shine through
mhm,
and that without having to know the set lists. And I think that is what really sets it apart. Not that I feel like my work is better than anybody's, but I think that's how you can make yourself stand out is packing in more personality and more of the things that you like.
mhm,
I mentioned Ross Halfin. I'm just very inspired, creatively and visually by uh, vintage art,
mm,
specifically by, yeah, like retro film photographers. I try to bring that kind of rawness and texture into the work that I do now, even to the point where I will shoot on film or I have a little like, VHS tape
mm.
camera. Um, I'm really inspired by, horror films from those eras, the unique colors and the like campiness of it as well. And I think that it's important to have your inspirations and to keep that on lock so you have your own style, but then
Mm,
to find ways to mold that to the people that you're working with. So, I mean, I have a I tend to struggle when I'm working with the band for the first time because I'm worried I don't know them well enough
gotcha.
to be able to showcase them in the way that they deserve to be.
Mm,
but I also really pride myself on being approachable and being willing to get to know somebody and build a bond and a friendship with them. So that way I can, show them in their best light and show what they're capable of. And then, maybe help them build a brand or, help them form that content so it
Mhm.
sticks and it's something that people look forward to. And it's something that people want more of.
Mhm. No, that's a great answer. I think, it's like you said, sometimes these images only matter for a few hours, and that's it's kind of a brutal thing to know about your own art. But I think too, like tour posters have become pretty big, and sometimes there'll be a great photographic tour poster, not just the artistic ones. Um, some band shirts still have like the photography element to it, which I think is great. And people want to see their heroes, their favorites. They want to see it. But I also think too now you have so many people, right? There's cell phones, obviously, and then there's an abundance of editing. There's the AI stuff. So there's this like torrent that's pushing against just the classic photographer. Um, how do you kind of stay sane in that wave of things?
It is really hard, especially as someone who is like I'm very insecure about my work. I'm always anxious. I'm always comparing myself to the people I respect and
Hmm.
idolize, as I'm sure everybody is in to some way with social media and with art in general. But I've tried to surround myself and work with clients who are willing to talk to me and tell
Mm,
me what they want, tell me what they don't like. And then, so long as I'm producing work that I'm happy with and the client is happy with, that helps me kind of put my blinders on.
okay.
Having said that, though, I am always trying to learn. I am always trying to be um, humble. Like I'm never trying to be like, oh, I'm the best at this. I don't need to continue to progress. I'm always looking at, meeting the other photographers in the pit when I'm on tour, the local guys, and being like, hey, like, let's be friends. I want to see your work.
Yeah.
Messaging and being annoying is like my number one thing. I will annoy other photographers I look up to and be like, hey, like, how did you do that if you're willing to share? Or, I just try try new things and then you find new things and then it makes it a little less scary because instead of focusing on the fact like, oh shit, I have to like produce this photo gallery and then a reel and then tomorrow I have to do it again, you're just like trying to make every image impactful for you and impactful for your
Hmm.
client. And if it means something to you and to them, it will mean something to somebody. Is kind of how I think about it. And it's hard to say that because I don't want to seem, tone deaf and not say that like social media numbers matter and that stats and analytics don't matter because 100% they do. But at the same time, that's not a measure of good content, in my
Hmm.
opinion, fully because I can take a photo that I think is the best image I've ever taken, and or the band will post a picture that they think is the best photo of them, and it will flop.
Hmm.
Statistically, like it'll get 100 likes, and then that will make you feel really down. But you have to take the little wins when the client's like, I love this picture, or you're
Hmm.
like, damn, I pulled something off that I didn't think I could. That, sorry, the cat, that will
No, that's
make
all
you
right.
feel a lot better about the like rat race against yourself,
Mhm.
against the stats, against AI, um, and just yeah, constantly trying new things and never feeling satisfied with your own work, but also still giving yourself the grace to be like, hey, I did something I never thought I could do. Like last year, I wouldn't be able to produce this. This year, I did. That's
Mhm.
awesome. But now I gotta step it up.
Yeah,
I
and
don't
I
know if that.
think I think I like the point you make because also something you're fighting against you have no control over, right? Is like the algorithm and like, oh, 3 p.m. on a Friday is the best time to post. Well, like, hey, we're on the road. I can't do that. I need to just get this out. But the algorithm, right, especially if it's like you got the wrong tag, which is just one word and that changes everything.
Yeah.
Um, but I think that's a bit. And I think most people in this industry are really don't like that stuff or tolerate it, but that's kind of it. But
Mhm.
it is a reality. So if I'm a musician, I'm up on stage and Sav's there taking photos, I have to kind of just say she's going to take a good shot. Whatever it does online is what it does online. But people who want to see our band will come to the page or the stream and they'll see it there.
Yeah.
But also with
That's
that being, sorry, with that being said, and you briefly mentioned it, do bands trust you to kind of do something, or do they routinely say, okay, this is what we want you to try to get?
I think that like having touched on that statistics as well, like I do always keep it in the back of my mind. Like I'm on top of trends. I'm trying to be on top of the algorithm to know what will get boosted,
Hmm.
but I try not to make that as the forefront of my creativity.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like because I will go to a band and I want to know what their goals are, we try to have that conversation before the tours
Hmm.
or before the shows. Be like, what are your goals? What do you want this to help you achieve? That will help better understand how we can make the template that will be good for the algorithm that we can fit all the creativity inside. Um, and it, I find that I'm lucky now, the bands I work with, they do trust me,
Hmm.
and I work very hard to earn that trust. I try to always, give them what I think will look best. I will never give them anything that I think is ugly or unflattering. And then if they have notes, they're like, I don't like these colors or I don't like this
Hmm.
angle. I will try to keep that in mind. I always ask people before I shoot their set, like, okay, do any members have any specific angles they don't like, any sides they don't like? Can I make adjustments to the lighting to make sure we get the best possible content out of this? And I think because I'm willing to, as I mentioned like 3 times, be annoying and be anxious, it has helped me uh, showcase that I'm trustworthy and bands can trust me with their brand and their
Hmm.
art, and I'm going to do my best to showcase it in a very authentic way that will show their fans, the new fans, who they are and what to expect.
Hmm.
Because I think, with the algorithm, all that does and all the viral videos that you see are boiled down to authenticity. Like
Hmm.
the first moment that, a trend is trending is because it's new, it's exciting, it's authentic. And then it gets tired because you get copycats and all this stuff.
Hmm.
But everybody is unique. Every band is unique, whether or not they're, playing in the same subgenre. So trying to find what makes a band unique and trying to really help them feel comfortable showcasing that is something that is super important and something that I will prioritize
Hmm.
when I shoot and when I'm just interacting.
Hmm. No, that's great. And I think that also leads me to think I can go to any band's page and I'm gonna get like a highlight reel from their tour, right? And it's like these are all the things, but anybody who's a regular concert goer knows like that's not what the whole show is like, right? And
Mhm.
so it's highlighting like this is what our show can be, but also that kind of authentic, here's a snapshot into the show, and maybe it's of just one member and you don't see that the crowd's not particularly moving, but this member is like they're doing some great solo or they're performing really well. So I think it's a really fair balance to say, here's a highlight, but also here's just some individual moments to share. But do you ever find like those times where it's like, man, I'm trying to put the best possible spin on this, but here's a challenge. And
Mhm.
I've seen your work. I know what you're capable of, but I don't know what goes into it for you. So can you share a little bit of that?
Yeah, I find that even if you're on a tour, or even if you go to a show for multiple dates, you will see that kind of every show will have a template of how it runs. The
Hmm.
vocalist will talk here. They're going to say something like this. This is how they're going to end the show. Like you have those big, massive moments. And those are the moments that you want to capture and you
Hmm.
want to put out there. But even though every show's template and outline is the same, every show is different because
Hmm.
every member of the audience is not the same. The way that the audience interacts with the crowd is not the same. Every show will have a special moment in some way.
Hmm.
And it can be hard and daunting at first to try and be, the person that has to look for the special moments that are happening when you're focusing, like you said, on one moment that's on stage. Like there could be something going on behind you.
Hmm.
But I think that you always kind of have to have your head on a swivel,
Hmm.
and as we have learned both for injuries and for capturing moments. Um, and when you have a challenging environment, just find a way to make it unique. Like the amount of bar shows I've shot where there's
Mm.
no lights at all. I'm like, okay, well, I hate what I'm taking right now. I don't feel confident presenting this to the client. What can I do to make it look cool? So
Mm.
that's when, my brain was like, okay, just make it look strange or make it look different. So
Sure.
that's when I started getting into utilizing fractals or using flash and different techniques
Mm.
with, slow shutter drag and stuff like that. Or, you focus less on getting the like picture perfect Instagram shots and you focus more on creating a vibe out of
Hmm.
what you have, just making something out of nothing. And it's not always successful, but it's worth a try.
Hmm.
And it also helps push you as an artist to try different things and to just experiment. And it can sometimes lead to finding your own personal style and finding something that you didn't know you liked or that the band didn't know they liked. And or it can lead to, hey, this turned out like shit, what do we need to do to make sure that never fucking happens again? And
Yeah.
that's when you can have honest conversations where it's like, hey, black metal band, I know you're trying to curate a vibe with no lights at all, but if you want photos or you want to capture the ambiance, we have to find another way to do it. Maybe we don't need to turn on other lights, but then maybe, we incorporate candles. And that's where I find that I tend to overstep my role as just a media person and kind of step more into the branching and promotion and the marketing and promotion and branding
Yeah.
is because like, hey, we need to make this look cool, or we need to make this look like something different.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a good point, especially with like black metal bands and stuff. If they want that exposure that you can offer, but they also want like the dark brooding, something's got to give. There's only so much, fine tuning you can do in editing without any light. And so
Mhm.
I think that's a good point. And you use the word overstepping, but it's also right. That's your passion in saying, hey, more needs to be done here. So I guess as
Yeah.
long as you're respectful with it, most people would be receptive, hopefully.
Yeah,
Um,
try to always bring as like a, hey, I don't want to fail and look like I'm bad at my job. I don't want you guys to look like you're boring and just another,
mhm,
black metal band playing under red light. Like, are you open to maybe finding ways we can make this look different or unique, or
mhm.
trying to work together to create a visual identity?
Yeah, and I think one thing, and you can let me know your thoughts here. Bands have started really incorporating more shots of the crowd, not just when like they're singing, like leaning into the crowd, but like, hey, get these crowd shots, or let's get these snippets of the pit or crowd surfers. Um, have you seen a shift in the way that that kind of stuff, the the offstage stuff is being used, or has it been kind of steady, or what's your take on that?
I feel like just from somebody who's within photography and like has followed and seen these kind of trends progress to their height now, like I wouldn't say it's new. Like any good photographer or documentarian is going to make sure that they document in a way that showcases exactly what you are going to get and showcases the energy
Mm-hmm.
that is created. However, it is becoming way more popular to have like those tight in shots of individual crowd members like crying and showcasing emotion. It's not new, but in my opinion, in this, I can't find a way to say this without sounding like a douchebag. In my opinion, it kind of separates the people in photography who are people with nice cameras
Mm-hmm.
and people who are photographers, because the people who are photographers are going to look for the moment, for the memory, and are going to capture it no matter what it takes, even if they don't have the right lens for it,
Mm-hmm.
because they know that is what people want to see. Because if I see a shot from my favorite band and it is somebody who is crying and has, a raw emotion, I'm going to know that I'm going to be able to feel that way when I go to that show. And
Yeah.
then people who are just getting into it maybe, or who are, like I said, a person with a camera, they're going to try to be there to document the thing that's going to make them feel the coolest. Like I don't know how to say this in a way, like I'm not trying to shit on people who are just getting into it, and like I know you have to start somewhere, but there
Mm-hmm.
are a certain subsect of people who are there to shoot shows because they want the glory that comes with saying, hey, I shot this artist, this
Mm-hmm.
famous person, and this famous person liked my work.
Yep.
Whereas, like, some photographers are like, yeah, sure, I shot this band that I love, but I spent more time documenting the room because I know the room is what's going to make people buy tickets. I know
Yeah.
the room is what's going to make people buy albums. I know that showing that is what's going to make labels take note because there's butts and seats. Um, and that is the type of stuff that's super important. Anybody can take a headshot of an artist who looks good in good light,
Hmm.
but it takes a lot more than that to show the truth behind a band or an artist and to market, because at the end of the day your job is to market, whether it's taking BTS photos or anything like that. Like, that stuff's being posted on social media to market the band.
Yeah. Well, and again, like if I'm looking through a magazine or online or whatever, I want to see the shot. I want to see the eye being applied here. I don't want to just see, oh, you have a great modern camera. That's awesome. Or like you know how to smooth things out in Photoshop. Like that's great. I want to see like, oh, this person got a shot that nobody else has got. They got
Yeah.
that angle, they got that shadow, whatever it is. Because to me, that's right. Concerts are visceral. And that's what I want from the photography. Obviously, you can't get that all the time perfectly. Concerts are too dynamic for that. But there's those shots that come out that are iconic. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and now that we've gotten further along in history to where you can look at shows from the 70s and 80s and see shots of the crowd or the room, as you were saying, like, man, look at that. What was that? What was that like? What was the aura then? What was the vibe? What were these people thinking? And I think it's a great thing to consider because, like you said, if there's butts in seats, people are going to take notice. If there's,
Mm-hmm.
you know, just like, oh, this was a clean, like, image, but not a great shot, like, that doesn't do anything for anyone really. So, um,
Yeah.
but again, that's you doing these massive calculations kind of as you're also trying to get good shots. Are you like
Yeah.
burned out at the end of the night, or are you energized, or?
Yeah. I mean, I would normally be burnt out at the end of the night if it was like a one-off show and I
Hmm.
I had, one opportunity. I'm shooting this band's entire set and this is my only chance to get them everything I feel like they deserve and everything I think that their fans deserve and everything I think is going to make them feel like hiring me was worth shelling out the money.
Hmm.
So after that, I get hella burnt out because I'm like anxious for the weeks leading up. I'm anxious the night of. I'm anxious, with everything. And then I get home and then I'm like, oh God, I fucked it. Like everything sucks. And then you stay up and you're freaking out and you're editing the photos. And then when you finally send them off, you're anxious until they reply. And then when they finally reply, my brain is like, you're done.
Hmm.
And then I just crash. But you can't really do that on tour. You kind of just have to fucking keep going. Like
Hmm.
my tour day typically looks like I get up, I will help where I'm needed, I will document BTS, I'll document the fucking sound check, and then I'll
Hmm.
get a little break, or I'll edit video or content from the next day, and then you shoot the show immediately after the show. If I'm not running merch, I am at the fucking green
Hmm.
room editing those photos, getting them the gallery before the headliner is done or before the bus leaves. So I
Yeah.
don't have time to think about anxiety or emotions. I have time to get my job done. And then afterwards, I can be anxious, but I can't quit because, we have a 6 hour drive and then I have to do the next thing in like less than 24 hours. So that's the nice part about the job is it doesn't give you a lot of time to be stressed. And, it can cause you to burn out hella. And I really feel for people in those moments when they have finally had enough. And I'm sure I mean, I've had that myself, but I'm just of the mindset where I'm like, I just got to keep going. Like this will not be productive for me. Maybe
Hmm.
that is a really bad habit, but I'm just like, fucking put a cork in it right now. Your emotions will be fine.
Yeah, and sometimes right that's what you have to do because we know that bands they have the crazy schedule, but the crew also has like these all these things that they have to do. Um, so it's not like anybody in the touring party has a light night, right? Like you guys are all working. Um, I've heard people kind of disparage like the merch sellers, and it's like you don't know what they're going through. They have to talk to a million people a night. They have to argue with people. They have to deal with merch cuts. Um, But I know if I go to buy some merch and it's a good experience, like I'm gonna take that away from the night.
Mhm.
One of my favorite things was from um somebody at working Maryland Death Fest. They were selling merch for Dismember and they were telling me about some festival and how much of a blast it was for them. And I remember that when I finally got to go to that festival. So I think every element of the performance matters. I mean, you know what it's
Mhm.
like when the security team sucks, it's like
Yeah.
okay, that kind of ruined my night. So I like that you're expressing so much passion ultimately for work that is coming from another person that is now also yours to collaborate with.
Hmm. Yeah, it is. It's like a big collaborative effort. Like
Mhm.
I thank bands every fucking day or individual members of the bands every day for letting me do what I do because I couldn't do it without what they do. And that is also why
Mhm.
I for a long time gave work away for free or worked for free because I was like, I know I'm like, what am I going to take a fucking picture of if you're not on stage? Or what am I going to be inspired by if you didn't write this album? Like, I wouldn't be here without them, and they, wouldn't be there without their fans. So it's just all like a massive ecosystem, and we all wouldn't be at the show without the riggers. We wouldn't be at the
Mhm.
show without the stage managers. We wouldn't be at the show without the door person. Like
Mhm.
everybody plays such an integral role in this industry, and it's really easy to feel um, underappreciated in this industry and to get burnt out because it is just a constant like work so fucking hard for this 15 to 2 hour set, 15 minutes
Mhm.
to 2 hour set, and then it's gone.
Mhm.
It's empty. You've done all this work. Nobody said thank you. Everybody's already gone on to the next city. It's the music industry is so much like social media in that way. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm just having this brainwave at this moment, but like it's so like give me instant gratification now and then nothing.
Well, yeah, and in a few of the interviews I've done recently, we a lot of musicians talked about this. We had a bit of back and forth about the difference between kind of like is this a performance or is it a product, right? Did the group come on, deliver the product and kind of move on? Did the fans kind of do their part, but as a product, or were they engaged? And I think that we definitely have seen a shift, again, from my perspective in the crowd, to more product. I've seen bands that came on and their set was just it was so polished it almost sounded like well there was a CD playing and they were just kind of dancing to it. So I think that these other elements that you're describing really kind of thicken this atmosphere. Um, and yeah, during the pandemic, we didn't have any of it, right?
Yeah.
And one of the sweetest kind of moments I saw post-pandemic was at El Corazon, in Seattle there, a group of the photographers coming back for one of their first shows, and they like all hugged right there. And there
Yeah.
were probably seven or eight of them. Um, and they were just talking about how good it was to see another photographer and be at a show. And like what a magical slice that is. Um, but yeah, it's a lot of work and it's a lot of thinking on your feet and it's a lot of small sweaty spaces and thankless nights. So
Yeah.
um and so much that goes into one photograph that I might see for 5 seconds.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you loved it, the band loved it, and that's huge.
Mhm. And I think we're lucky too. When I say we, I mean like people like you and I who are involved in the metal scene specifically in the more alternative because as you mentioned, like things seemed really polished and producty. And I find at least I haven't reached the highest ceiling of I'm not touring with like Judas fucking Priest or Iron Maiden, so I can't speak to that. But at least in my industry and the level of bands that I've gotten to work with is in this metal community, even though like your set might be polished, that the genuine connection is still there. And I think we have the underground to thank for that. I know we do because these bands wouldn't be there without it. And the bands that are the most, mm, the ones that you feel the most connection with are the bands that still hold on to those roots
Mm,
and their humble beginnings, if you will. They are the bands that are still like going to shows themselves at like local venues and
hmm
are keeping up to date on the underground because that's where all that passion is. And if you bring that in, that's what's going to make you unforgettable. And I think that that is a true testament to the metal community at large. Is we will not we tend to be a little douchey and elitist, and we will not support a band that we feel has gone, too commercial. But if we are also able to tell if a band is still hanging on to where they became or where they came
Hmm.
from, and what they're becoming, and bring that into it. And I think that that is so cool, and it really makes the community so strong, and builds those relationships, like you said, that can withstand COVID, and can make you excited to see people. Like
Hmm.
whenever I go to tour in Europe, I'm like, I know I'm going to see this one fucking dude that I met at this one show, and we're gonna still be homies. It's how I feel about you. We met at one show, and I got
Yep.
a fucking concussion, but now we're homies, and it's been like 5 years since. And that is like the coolest part about underground metal specifically, and
Hmm.
bands that still integrate that into their show, into their vibe, even if they're more polished. Like I just got off a tour with Entheos, and they are so like close to reaching commercial success. Come
Hmm.
on, kid. But they are still so hard and heavy and raw and tough because of their underground upbringing, and they don't let go of that. Like
Hmm.
their vocalist is still like tough as fucking nails, and like throwing it down and doing kicks, and like they're
Hmm.
windmilling, doing cool shit. It's dope, and that is like what gets me excited as a photographer, and that is what I think we are so lucky to get to experience it as metalheads. And I think really like will help bands stand the test of time, in my opinion, and help us realize that maybe polished isn't perfect and isn't what we want. Because like I even bring that into photography. I'm kind of like rambling now. Hello, cat. Please stop. But like I don't shoot with the best gear on the market. Like I'm fucking broke, but I make it work. And if you
Hmm.
can capture that energy, and like you still can put out something that's cool, it doesn't have to be crisp and sharp and polished. It has to mean something. It has to
Hmm.
feel like something. And at the end of the day, that is what makes or breaks people in this industry. And if you can, I hate to say capitalize on that, but if you can put that at the forefront of your music and of your in front of your audience every night, that's the most important. And I think that is something that is coming back now.
Yeah, I would agree with you. And it's great that people want to have pride in what they're delivering, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I do think there's a grittiness. It's just like when film has the right grain for the shot. It's just like this is right, chef's kiss.
Mm-hmm.
Entheos, I got to see them briefly once open for Whitechapel. I was like, oh, they were good, but it was, opening slot, so it wasn't particularly long. And recently I got to catch them on their first headlining tour. Um, and it was right over in New York. And it was great to see them have kind of a bigger role in that night out. It was it was kind of a smaller stage front, so they didn't get to do quite as much as you could see that they wanted to. But um and it was great. And they went out there and they didn't play like, oh, hey, we're rising stars. They went out there and they played just more freely. We get to be more ourselves. We have a longer set. We get to play maybe a different selection of songs because we don't have to maybe merge with these other bands or however bands choose their songs. But it was nice to see a band like that. And yeah, if they get really big, that'll be great. But I hope that they keep that point that you're referring to, that kind of underground um, element that keeps them more genuine.
Yeah, I agree. I think at the core of it, like if you keep the genuineness, as I mentioned, and the honesty, it will take you so much further than anything else. And that goes for photography, for music, for interviews, for attending shows, for being
Mhm.
merch slingers. Like it's just like just be authentically yourself.
Hmm.
It's hard, it's scary, it's anxiety inducing, but it is like it'll get you to where you want to be. I feel like I've really tried to hold that true. Obviously schmooze when you have to, but
Yeah.
turn that off.
Well, it's part of what you have to do. it would be a rare person who can not schmooze and not do all that other stuff and make it, and
Mhm.
I don't know that that makes them better. It would just mean that they just got through it. So I guess kind of here and wrapping up, what do you see? So, right, you're a photographer, but you do a lot more. But what do you kind of see as the future as like this perspective of being part of the crew, we'll just say. Photography and these other things, what does that kind of look like moving forward? Do you feel like?
That's it's tough. I feel like I was very lucky to in this last year reach goals that were even beyond the ones that I had set. Ultimately, I would like to be stable in this industry, which
Mm,
is not common. But I would like to just be able to be a fucking dude that tours and takes pictures and makes videos. I'd like to, maybe jump more into the role of um, artistic direction because I'm a big ideas guy, and sometimes my ideas exceed my abilities. But I've been lucky to meet some really incredible creatives who are way years beyond me, way better than me, and to be able to help a band curate a vibe or an energy or something, and to be able to employ my friends in different fields to create art that is going to sell tickets so people can tour, so other photographers can go on tour, and like all of this shit, I think is just my end goal, is just to be able to keep doing this and keep helping the industry open doors and supporting live music as
mm.
an art form and as an industry for the rest of my life. And hopefully it treats me with the same love and respect I treat it, and I can stay here and keep eating my ramen noodles that I'm paying for with death metal dollars. Like, the fact that I can do that is fucking crazy, and I would just love to be able to help other people do that. And I think, you know, artistic directing is something that would be really cool eventually, just for
Mm.
creatively fulfilling and probably money wise. But
I mean, nobody's really going to complain if they make a better living, right? And
yeah,
you've done some artistic. I know you've had a hand in a number of videos now. I think Archspire was one. I probably missed a few, but
yeah, I've helped with the last three Archspire videos. I got to help with Entheos. That's how I got in contact with them, and my partner's band, Truant. So
mhm.
oh, not from Seattle area. They're
Yep.
fantastic. It's just, yeah, it's been super cool. And whether I'm using the camera or not, it's just so cool to have a role in that and to see that come to life.
Yeah, I would agree. It's always nice when minds can get together and like really put something inspiring out there. Because let's face it, at the end of the day, people want to enjoy something and feel motivated in whatever way. I mean, when MTV was the thing, how many hours did we spend just like on the floor watching music videos?
Exactly. And it's such a lost art. Well, it's not, but it is. I don't know. Yeah, there needs to be more of that. Like a release. Social media is kind of ruining my last tangent. Social media is kind of ruining the whole package of a release, say. So like
Mm.
being able to put way more effort into your CD art layout and your album art and your logo and the merch that goes with it and the music video to accompany the story, like it's it's something that needs to make a resurgence, and it's something that everybody can have a little hand in, and AI needs to keep its little robot arms out of. And uh, I think that that would be such a cool thing if we can come back to the time where it's like, oh fuck, like I'm buying the CD from HMV. I don't know if HMV exists in America, but
Nope.
okay, from my local CD store, and then now I can look at all the lyrics inside of it and like physical media and music videos with
Mhm.
thought that aren't just TikTok trends or sections of your song that are played over and over again, I think is something we really need to like get back to, and makes me really excited to see coming back and to keep pushing forward in any small way.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the pay it forward mentality of a lot of musicians, particularly in metal community, is beautiful. And the artistic components, when bands would talk about CD layouts and stuff, it'll be really nice if we get that back. But Sav, I've always enjoyed seeing you at shows. I enjoy your work, and I wish you continued luck moving forward.
You're the best. Thank you so much. It was awesome.
Bye, Sav. I'll talk to you soon.